Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and this week I am tackling a commission project, which is a 1983 Hot Wheels Silverado. I went a little bit off script with this. He liked the color, but not the tampos, obviously, because they're really stupid. So I agreed with him 100%. However, I ended up painting it a little bit different color, um, just because I thought it looked better. But you have to start somewhere, so I took the wheels off, took it apart, and kind of, for me, the first stage is trying to determine what I'm going to use for wheels. So I pulled out some steelies that I thought would look good, big in the back, small in the front, and that's kind of where I start. If you watch any of my videos, that's usually what I do. Is I'll try to get the stance and the fitment of the wheels first before I do too much, or at least, you know, a good idea of what I want to do. Now, these wheels were the right length as far as the axle goes, and being able to actually fit inside the rear bed, but the chassis itself was a little too narrow, so I had to do a little bit of work there, which we'll see in the video. The fronts were pretty good. They fit no problem. I didn't have any issues except for the small diameter, so I had to do a little finagling to get those to work, but that's essentially what I'm after right there. As always, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to ring the bell to get notified of all future content. So I put it in the citrus strip and worked pretty good. I was surprised, actually. Usually stuff with the heavy tampos like that, it's kind of a pain in the neck. With the citrus strip, it has to work a little extra. But overall, I mean, I put it in and let it sit overnight just because that's how I work. So, but after it comes out, you got to get all the residue off and everything. So I have a couple different um, brass attachments for my wire brush stuff for the Dremel. I have an old cone one you can see right there that's pretty beat, but it works great for getting in the little nooks and crannies inside to be able to get all the residue off and any extra paint that might still be stuck there. But that's always a good step to make sure you get all the stuff off, because you want the paint to have a good surface to stick to. Now, I did talk about the fact that the rear tires are the axles themselves are a little narrow. And it did fit within what I wanted it to, so I had a choice. Normally, I'd widen the axles. In this case, well, by using an axle tube, this case, it was because they did fit, I needed to narrow the chassis. So sometimes you have to do both, but in this case, it just made more sense to narrow the chassis and allow the wheels to fit that way. And then I have to also do the same thing with the interior piece that sits in the bed, because the tires would obviously rub on those because it's the same inner width as the actual chassis. So you can see I measured very accurately before I started doing this, and I just kind of wing most of what I do. Most of these videos are more just to give you guys ideas of what can be done. Some projects like this aren't a lot of work, and it's more just to show what you can do with minimal stuff. Sometimes it's a little bit more in depth, but in this particular case, I'm just trying to, highlight what can be done. Now here, I ran into a problem. Is the backs roll, but the fronts don't, and the front wheel diameter is really small. So the base was rubbing on the ground. So all I'm doing is I'm sanding it down a little bit to take the any kind of a bump out of the, pretty much I need it flush with the front bumper. And again, I could have lowered it a little bit, or raised the axle or lowered the axle so that it would raise the chassis, but I wanted a certain stance. So for me, it made more sense to try to sand everything down. And it wasn't a ton. I probably took maybe a 30-second off, but it was just enough to allow me to be able to let it to roll, so you can see right there. So now the chassis itself comes with 2 exhaust pipes on the back. they look really good. So I just decided to use my pin vise and whore out the inside and just drill a little bit of a hole, so it gives the impression that it's actually a real exhaust tip, not just a piece of plastic sitting there. Pin vices work really good for really small areas or for starting things. So the other thing he wanted a tonneau cover with my logo on it. So I'm just using a piece of 1/16 styrene. I'm cutting it and I'm putting some blockage in there to be able to allow it to sit on the bed. I did run into some problems with this. I kind of screwed up a little bit. It fits perfectly until you paint it. The paint added, between the paint and the clear coat, it added some width to the bed, so kind of have to do some finagling there. But you can kind of see everything's kind of ready for paint and primer. I've got the interior masked off. I've got the front grille masked off, and I'm going to use a combination of the Tamiya white primer and then some Chaos black for the black stuff. And I am going with Splash Paint's Cortez Silver as my first base over the primer. Then once that's done, and it looks really good like that, but he wanted, like I said, something close to what he had originally. I went a little off script, and I decided to try this Model Master spray can. I have red paints, I've got maroon paints, I've got everything from Splash, but I didn't go that way. So here's some bonus 66 Nova footage.
So I got this 66 Nova from somebody, and he was kind of hoping that I could do some details on it, and mainly just like headlights, taillights, interior. Looks like these are probably maybe some M2 wheels that he had put on. So he had already taken it apart, and one of the wheels had come off. So what I was going to do is I put this piece of brass rod in that keeps the wheels in, no problem. Problem being is that these are really a small diameter wheel, and they look good on the Nova. But the problem is I don't know if you can see that or not, but these wheels barely crest that. So if you put any kind of weight on this, it's not going to roll very well. And that's what I'm finding is one of the problems right now, is this just doesn't roll very well. You know, there's no good way of doing this. And if you look, I mean, it definitely is, the wheels are definitely past this bottom part, but not by much. You put any kind of weight on this, you know, it just becomes a problem. So I got to address that. I may have to take off some of this leaf spring, sand that down just a little bit here, or cut it. You know, take it, just put a little bit of a flat on it, like so. And I can file that down, make that smooth, like so. So, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at right there. I mean, the rear end housing might be sticking down just a smidge now. So I got to address that. And then I'm going to detail the dash and this center console and the carpets. And probably, I don't know if I'll be doing the rear deck or not. I might actually put speakers in there, since this is really all I'm doing. I'm just some details. I'm not even touching this except for maybe the door handles and the tail lights, and then I'll clear it for them. Like I said, this is straight from Hot Wheels, so there's nothing fancy here. But right now, that's my problem, is trying to address this rolling issue. And, you know, it's possible that if I glue this down, instead of just letting the interior do all the work, I mean, it will roll, but there's a little bit of flexibility there. So that's what I want to work on. And yeah, that's it.
All right, so you can see pretty much bare bones Nova. This is the way it came from Hot Wheels, and then I did all these details that you just saw. And I also have the finished truck. This was kind of a pain in the neck to try to mask off to get that look, but I got the decal on. Everything's ready to go, get cleared. Everybody asks me, this is what I use for clear. And this is how that clear looks. Now remember, this Nova is Hot Wheels. I mean, there's been no, aside from the detailing that I did on the actual body, that was a flat black or matte black finish with the red maroon stripes. So when you could just apply clear over that, that's how it looks. It looks really, really good. And so I did some details on the interior for the truck. These are all the pieces parts finally cleared. I let it cure for 48 hours before I handle it. Usually dry in 24, but I like to be safe and make sure that I don't have any problems. That's the underneath of the truck. Did the headlights, grill. Everything's ready to go and ready to be assembled. This is the quick glamour shot, rotating table mirror thing that I figured I'd throw this in there so you can see. He's going to get this back as is. Don't forget about the skid show. I got a link right up top if you want to know more about it, and you'll be seeing some footage from me on that coming in the next couple of weeks. This is what I started with. I love the square body pickup trucks. You really can't beat them. This graphics is freaking horrible. It's horrible. That's all I can say. This is what I ended up with. I know it's a little brighter than what he wanted, but I think it offset with the silver nicely. I'm just, again, that was a creative choice I made, and we all have to make decisions sometimes when you're doing this stuff and kind of go on the fly what you think is going to work best. And I wish it didn't have the yellow mirror windshield, but it is what it is, and it does allow you to at least see through and see the interior stuff that I did. And then I just took a bunch of pictures. Again, I've got like 3 videos coming out in the next week. I apologize. I took on more than I can chew. I've got the Tiki Challenge, Gasland stuff with Jamie over at Devil's Details Diecast. I also have another one with him on the 1st or 31st, something like that, for the Cannonball Run. I'm doing the Patrol Cruiser, and I got my normal 4 horseman build, which as of me recording this video, I haven't even started yet. So, but all 3 of those are due within a day of each other at the end of the month, either on the 31st or on February 1st. So you'll be seeing a lot of content from me coming up. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.